and Kale podcasts. Rob Sanders.
Some would be entertained by it. Some would be horrified by
Kale Carolina Jackpot Hall.
All would be interested in it.
The Rob and Kale podcasts.
Let's go.
And welcome in to the Rob and Kale podcast. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us this evening. Jackpot has the evening off. He'll pop in momentarily. He said for a little bit. He'll be in the comments section here shortly. But we appreciate everybody checking out the program this evening as we're getting more and more in depth into the March Madness coming up. So we have that. Do not worry. Virtual Kale is here with us this evening.
What's going on, motherfuckers?
Yes, Virtual Kale joins us on the program. I mean, it's not like you're going to miss much. Jackpot is upset about Coley, the wide receiver coach, leaving for the University of Georgia.
I fucking hate him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Virtual Jackpot is right here. But I have to bring into the program my mystery guest this evening. This is a gentleman that just started his own YouTube channel. He also squirrel hunts with a 30-06. He is Mr. Big Barney Ross. What's up, my friend? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Rob. How you doing tonight?
Wearing the old school Knights jersey. That's from what? The Robert Redford movie, The Natural, right?
That's right.
There you
Thought
go.
I'd celebrate this month with The Natural, and a big shout out to the South Carolina Gamecocks women for beating Kentucky into a familiar scenario. I hadn't seen a beating like that since I stood in my divorce court.
Yeah, I mean, we could lead off with that for a second. Don Staley, you know what Don Staley does? Beats the holy shit out of people.
Yeah.
That's what Staley does. 103 points today her women put up as they throttled the Kentucky Wildcats. So, as my daughter would say, sucks to suck, sir. That's what that is. But everybody sucks to sucks when it comes to they don't like being called the Lady Gamecocks. I've always called them Lady Gamecock. It's not disrespectful. They're Gamecocks and they're ladies. I don't get it. Anyway, not that you come to this program for a political, to be politically correct with Jackpot and I roaming around, but Big Barney Ross and I are going to take you through this evening. Jackpot will be around. First thing right off the bat, they say that you shaved your beard. Sir, the beard that you had, I mean, it looked like you'd have to take a weed eater to that damn thing. How did you get rid of it?
Well, I got rid of it on a bet, and now that Kentucky is back to winning, I'm going to let it grow back out. So,
can you tell us about the bet you lost, sir?
Yeah, I put my beard up on the Florida game, and we lost that thing in overtime.
What would you have won if you had won, sir? If your team would have pulled through?
Jeff, my buddy in Baltimore, Maryland, had to shave his eyebrows.
You know, if you have a clean-shaven face and you shave your eyebrows, you kind of look like a dick with ears.
That's exactly right, and that's Jeff.
He is a dick. It's funny. Yeah, Jackpot is out this evening. He'll pop in here momentarily. And for the folks that send me DMs when one of us is off the program, holy shit with all that. Jackpot and I get along fine. We don't hate each other. Nothing but love between me and the man from the upstate. I don't want to do another podcast with various other Gamecock YouTubers. You guys are all awesome, but I do the show with Jackpot. Been doing it with him for the longest of time. So put all that in the, because I guarantee you, I'll get like 4 or 5. Hey, what, are you and Jackpot having problems? You ever thought about stepping in and doing a show? I'm like, no, I really don't. So if it's just the way that it is, I want to put that out there. All right, let's talk about this thing with South Carolina really quick here. And I'll get your opinion on it as a Kentucky fan, because you're kind of an outside voice, because it's not like South Carolina's competing with getting coaches from UK. I mean, that doesn't really happen very often. So you can kind of give it a different perspective. But they lost wide receiver coach James Coley he was the former Georgia offensive coordinator and is reportedly returning to Athens to run the receiving room for the Bulldogs. He was with Georgia from 2016 to 2019, starting as a receivers coach and ending as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Spent the past 4 seasons with Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher. When Jimbo Fisher got fired, they cleaned house. That meant that Coley could come to South Carolina. Now, for that to happen, South Carolina's receiver coach, Justin Stepp, who helped develop Xavier Legette, who's probably going to be a first-round pick, who helped develop or figured out, hey, Juice Wells is great. And, of course, Wells is going to be playing for Ole Miss this year. You lost a great wide receivers coach, in my opinion, to bring in this Coley guy. This guy's 43 days in and says, fuck it, I'm going back to the Georgia Bulldogs. Oh, man, what a shit show. Would you agree?
I agree with that. And I don't know who you would ask, either Shane Beamer or Sean Elliott, just to be hilarious here, because ask which one of them you'd want to bring in as your wide receivers coach, because I ain't sure Shane will make it through the whole year as a head coach. So asking Sean Elliott who he'd like to have as the wide receiver coach wouldn't be out of the question.
Well, let me spin this for just a second. So my mentality with this has consistently happened to Shane Beamer. He brings people on his staff. We can talk about the offensive coordinator, who's now the offensive coordinator for Georgia, Mike Bobo, and the defensive ends coach that they had there, Tracy Armstrong, I believe his name was. They both agreed, yeah, Shane Beamer, we're going to be with you, blah, blah, blah. And then they left him in the dark of night. They didn't even let the sun shine on their car. They packed that shit and ran and went to Auburn, of all places. How many times have you said, you know what? I live in Columbia, South Carolina. I could be in Columbia where if we win 8 games, they're going to think that we are the second coming. Or I can go to Auburn, and then you take Auburn. What in the blue hell is the way that I look at that? But this has happened to him before. Coaches come in, and then they leave, and it makes zero sense. And it's like that they don't respect Beamer at all. Not enough to honor their word and stay with him after they said, hey, you know, I've signed this contract. I'm going to be here. It looks like he's just light. Light is in the amount of respect that he gets from a lot of these other coaches. I mean, that's kind of the way to look at it.
Well, I see the same thing in these middle tier teams. You take Kentucky, Liam Cohen. Oh, I'll be here. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to be here. He's in Tampa. You know, we got him when we had Rich Sangaleon. Terrible. So for South Carolina, it's absolutely critical to get you somebody in there that's going to be able to produce results.
Right. Well, the other thing too is that the receivers that you've got, I mean, it's not exactly a strength for the Gamecock program right now. It's really not. So you're asking this guy to come in with a bunch of, you know, haven't beens, because, you know, maybe somebody will break out. You don't know. But as of right now, if we're looking at it on just paper, they don't really have like this great receiver that you're going to write home about. And you're going to have to get a coach who, let's just be honest, by this time, all of the great coaches are fucking gone. They're going to have to dip into an NFL cast-off route to get somebody to come in and fill that receiving coach role. And it's just not good. It's not good at all.
Joker Phillips is floating around. But if you were South Carolina, wouldn't you want to pony up some money and maybe, I don't know, throw Kelsey Pope some money and hope you could poach him from Tennessee?
Well, you know, if I'm Shane Beamer, I'm going to go in and I mean, do you even ask for more money? I mean, it's kind of hard to say, you know what? Hey, I need some more money. You went 5-7 last year. Yeah, well, I need some more money. What a shit show that's turned into for the South Carolina Gamecocks, and I don't know how they can fix it. If you want to respond to that, it's over. The link's over there in the description. Big Barney Ross will not bite you. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is called, the Kentucky Blue Balls channel. Go and check that out. It's hilarious because he tells you, I'm not monetizing this thing. I just want to come on here and talk about John Calipari and the things that are going on with Kentucky. But it gives you a different assessment of the Wildcats. And he does not want your money. No. Do not send him your money. He doesn't want it, which is actually kind of funny.
I think South Carolina really needs to look at this objectively, and you know, they could really make Jackpot happy here. There's another name out there, Perry Parks. You know, go Coastal Carolina on him. Bring him in, give the man a shot. Let him see what he can do in the big leagues.
Well, at this juncture, you kind of have to, you know, what was it? what was it? Josh Pate said, I think I've got the quip right here. You need something that's going to be either a home run hire or it's going to be the shits. It's one or the other. And that's kind of where South Carolina is. And I've got too many clips over here for that, but oh, there it is.
It's going to be a home run hire in time, or it's going to be a disaster.
One or the other.
So they're getting Eddie Gran.
Always said the Coastal coach. Papa B says he will be fired if he doesn't make a bowl. Now, the Gamecock fans that are out there and they're like, oh, well, Shane Beamer's still going to be great and all that. And you know what? Maybe he'll find somebody that he could scrape off the barrel. It's kind of we laugh when they hired Fred Flintstone, Mr. Dell Loggins there. Loggins came in and had a great, ended up having a pretty good season. But I just think you got rid of Justin Stepp to bring this guy in. And this guy basically said, all right, you took me to McDonald's and you supersized it, and I'm still not happy. So you should have took me to Cheesecake Factory because that's where Kirby Smart's going to take me. That's kind of the way that this looks, Well,
it don't make no sense to bring Justin Stepp back and put him in that position and then try to find. I mean, I think you're better off trying to get somebody like Joker Phillips or, and I joke about that, but, Coastal Carolina, why not? Crazy things have happened.
Isn't Joker Phillips like the custodian at Rupp Arena right now? I mean, I'm sure he'd give up his broom to come down to coach at South Carolina. Why not?
Hey, pay him the $200,000 that Coley owes South Carolina for leaving.
Yeah, well, I mean, he should put that into the mix, I guess. Chris says
no more.
Great for
just
them.
the $200,000.
Saints, yeah. Jay with a super chat. Thank you, Jay. CJP locked himself in his Jack Shack. He told you he got rid of the Jack Shack, sir. So I don't know where you're getting that from, but you know how that is. Billy says Beamer has problems opening up, and Sean Elliott will be the head coach by the 1st of November.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Well, look, if Sean Elliott, I've said this before, and hindsight is 2020, but I went back and pulled the show where I said, hey, this Muschamp hire is going to be the shits, and you might as well have promoted Sean Elliott. I'm willing to believe that Sean Elliott would have been that coach where he has all the stuff that Shane Beamer has. His players love him. He's tougher than nails, though. People do respect Sean Elliott. He wants to be in Columbia. His family lives here. They would have been probably just as good with Muschamp, or maybe even a little bit better. Maybe. But no one wanted to hear that. Rob was just a dumbass Clemson fan that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But Gamecock fans now look back and like, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. But if you want to talk about that, hey, the link will be over here in the description if you would like to go into that. Tim Frisbee is wide receiver coach. You know what? I can text Tim Frisbee right now and we'll get his response. Let's see here. I'll text Tim Frisbee right now. He'll tell me. Tim Frisbee. Yo, on my show tonight, they want to know if you would like to be the WR coach. There you go. You guys see it? Tim Frisbee there. Boom. We'll send that to him. See what he tells me. Worst he could tell me is we'll go from there. Anyway, so there's that.
Well, here's the conundrum. Given the matrix and the numbers that they have put on South Carolina's wide receiver core as being below average, are you really going to go to who are you going to get in the NFL? So, I mean, you're going to have to look at one of these schools that, like Coastal Carolina or, somebody floating around out there that's, missed out on opportunities. It's just hanging in the wind.
Carolina Jackpot joins the program and says Savell is coming down from Great Falls High School to take the job. Well, if you follow Savell Newton's Twitter feed, it's interesting, to say the least. Interesting. Anyway, we text Tim Frisbee. We'll see what he has on that. Brock says Tim Frisbee's one of the best football player stories in college. Yeah, I mean, you know who Tim Frisbee is there, Big Barney Ross?
No, not really.
Let me tell you who Tim Frisbee is. Tim Frisbee went into the Army and retired from the Army and was walked on to South Carolina with Coach Holtz and played as a walk-on for Holtz and Spurrier. And it wasn't this bullshit where he was sitting on the all right, you're on the team, you can go play practice and be a tackling dummy. No, he actually got into games. I mean, he recorded catches and stuff like that. He was on David Letterman, but he's a good guy. He does personal training and all kind of stuff and does radio with me on Saturdays during football season. I think he's a great guy. I don't know if he wants to coach or not, but we'll ask him. We'll send him a text message, see if he'll respond. He may be sleeping. He's one of those guys that wants his 8 to 10 every night to sleep. But, he may think, all right, if I'm going to coach here, then why would I want that wide receiver room that has nobody in it, which is kind of what you were talking about earlier.
Right.
I don't know. What a mess. He retired after 20 years there. I mean, he was 41 his freshman year at South Carolina. So, and this is with Holtz's teams, and he was on that last team with Holtz. And you could see him when the Clemson and South Carolina had the fight. Holtz is yelling at Frisbee, I don't want to go out like this, do something. And Frisbee looks at him and is like, what do you want me to do? Let them hoes fight. That's kind of the way that it was in that big fight. But Frisbee's a hell of a guy. We'll see what if he responds this evening. If not, he'll respond eventually, and we'll go from there. Anyway, so there's that. I don't think people respect Shane Beamer, and I don't think that's going to start now. And this just shows you, it really does. And it's one of those building blocks down the line where it's like, you know what? Remember when this happened? And that was kind of one of the things where it started to fall away. And South Carolina could go 5-7 this year and probably have a better team than they had last year, to be honest with you. But, I know they don't want to hear it, but the schedule is tough. And regardless of what happens here with Beamer this season, he's going to get shit on unless he pulls another 8 wins out of his hat and beats a Tennessee team. Or let's say he goes on, go big farm here. Hey, he's going to go and beat Alabama on the road. He needs a win like that to satisfy the fan base and buy himself another year.
He's going to have to beat Kentucky. He's going to have to beat Tennessee. There's a few teams that he's going to have to beat, I think, in order to keep his job. If he loses Kentucky, I think that'll be the straw that broke the camel's back right there.
You think it's that sure?
Yeah, because Kentucky, Tennessee will fire you on the spot if you lose to Kentucky. And I think, the way South Carolina's been winning, that's the only thing that's really helped him there with the, the money people, the people up there in charge. But I think you start losing to Kentucky again, you're trending in the wrong direction when you're losing to Kentucky.
Well, Jackpot, Gamecock Chuck, and all these folks Todd. Yeah, they don't play Tennessee this year. So, yeah, there's that. But they do play at Alabama. I'm just saying that will win. Maybe beating Ole Piss at home. Maybe it's something like that where it's
a good win.
Someone doesn't expect them to win. Because I think right now, Las Vegas would probably be – Gamecocks would probably be at least a touchdown dog at home to Ole Miss right now, I would guess. I think they're – 12, 13-point dogs on the road at Alabama. win one of those games, and then that'll alleviate some stuff. And hell, why not go up and beat Clemson again? Last time you played up there at Clemson, you were 16-point dogs and won. You need a win like that, especially if it's Clemson. They go 5-7, but that 5th win is Clemson. You know what? It'll be.
They'll keep him.
Yeah, they'll keep him, and the Christmas ham will taste a little bit better to match those Christmas ornaments that the Gamecock fans will make. We beat Clemson 2 times in a row at Death Valley. Jesus, Dabo Sweeney doesn't want any of that.
What hurts South Carolina is they get Kentucky early in the year this year, don't they?
Yeah, it's like their first conference game of the season. So
yeah, usually Kentucky gets worse as the year goes along because we lose people to injury. So we're going to be better at the beginning of the year, so that's going to hurt.
Well, respectfully, sir, and you don't like to mock your guest very much here, but you guys normally play a max schedule at the beginning of the season, and
exactly,
you're not doing that this year. So,
no, but we'll still be healthy.
That's a good point. Jordan the Deal Maker says, I'm damn sure don't respect him, Rob, but the Sunshine Pumpers get mad when I say it on YouTube. Well, sir, you shouldn't listen to comment sections on YouTube when it comes to your feelings because they don't care about your feelings, sir. All right, let's see here. Tom joins the show. Tom, how the hell are you, sir?
Good. How you doing? How you doing, Big Barney Ross?
Splendid.
Yeah, y'all got a good win over Alabama on Saturday. I bet y'all excited about that. You know, I mean, Alabama's basketball team's hot dog order this year, like they always are. But anyway,
Wait, hold on. You obviously haven't watched much Alabama basketball. You're like at the top of the conference, sir.
You're tied with Tennessee with first.
Yeah, you're tied for first place. That's not hot dog water, sir.
You had a couple guys. You had guys suspended, and you had a couple more out during the Kentucky game.
Yeah, but that was just, give up 59 points and a half, and then
it's like I have to tell a lot of the Alabama fans this. You know, losing one basketball game is not like losing a football game. You can lose 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games and still be a good basketball team.
Okay, but here's the thing. No matter how good Alabama is right now or how good we play, we still can't make it past the Sweet 16. That's been the MO for the past 4 or 5 years.
Respectfully, though, I think that has a little bit to do with your coach and the style of basketball that he puts out.
Yeah, because he lives and dies by the 3-point shot.
Right, and if you have a game where that 3-point shot's not falling, that's why early in the season Clemson beat the crap out of them down there. And the reason they did is Alabama didn't shoot the ball well from outside, and Clemson has two big, tall white guys. That's the best way to look at. One of them looks like Screech from Saved by the Bell without the hepatitis that he had, and the other one is just a big, tall, gangly fool. They decided we're going to dominate in the paint. If they beat us with shooting the threes, we'll tip our hats and move on. Alabama didn't hit the threes, and that's why they lost.
Big Barney, is Calipari retiring at the end of this year? There's rumors going around about him possibly retiring. Any truth to that, or have you heard anything? Or
no, there's no truth to that whatsoever because he's done talking about what he's going to do next year.
Okay, that's good. What's the latest on Clemson and Florida State leaving the ACC, Rob?
So, there's a lot of people putting out a lot of stuff, but until you actually get something from a university president or Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk, I'm not buying any of it because I think people just put things out for clicks. It wouldn't surprise me if remember when Oklahoma and Texas joined the SEC, that was at SEC or ACC kickoff. And we were like, what the hell? Somebody sent me that in a text message. And I was like, well, that's bullshit. And then all of a sudden, I got another text message. Then I got another text message from a guy that I know that writes for the newspaper in Oklahoma. And he's like, we're coming to the SEC. I thought all of them got together and were mocking me because, I'm at ACC kickoff. We're chasing down coaches and getting audio and all that. And these fools are texting me about Oklahoma joining the damn SEC. I thought it was a big pile of crap. And then all of a sudden that it was. It would be kind of I think it's going to be kind of the same way. And I don't think that Florida State is going to jump at the risk of having to pay an exit fee that's going to bankrupt their athletics department. I don't see that happening. I don't think Clemson's going to do that either. So I got to figure out a way to buy out of that. And according to the way that the rules are written up, I mean, I think it's like 2037, something like that, before they can get out of their TV deal, which let me just quick perspective on this. The ACC used to be the best basketball conference in the world. Now you've got ACC games for basketball on the freaking CW.
Yep.
I mean, you've taken your token product and put it on the CW. Same thing with football. You've got basically your C game, your C+ game on the CW, where people are turning it on and wanting to watch Supernatural like my wife, or watch freaking, Dawson's Creek. And where the hell is Smallville? No, I've got to watch NC State play Pittsburgh. Both teams are 3-8. Man, I want to see who goes 4-8 this year. It's the same mentality. They've shit on the TV rights there. When you look at the SEC, they've got all their stuffs on the SEC network. And hey, if your game's not on SEC Network 1, you've got it on the pluses and on down the line. You don't have to look for it. It is a shit show. They've done. But I blame John Swofford, the former commissioner. He did two things that were absolutely terrible. First, this TV deal that he put together, and the university ADs all signed off on it, so they're kind of in cahoots with it. So they signed the deal. They have to deal with that. But the other thing is that during COVID, we kind of talked about this before, Notre Dame wasn't going to have a football season because no one outside of each conference wanted to play against teams that were out of conference, because they wanted to control the way the fields were set up with COVID. We don't have to get into the COVID thing, but at that time, we didn't know. They wanted to make sure that the conference had it locked down on what they were going to do with COVID and have the restrictions on it, and then the insurance side of it and all that. Notre Dame wasn't going to have a football season.
Right.
And Swofford came in and said, you can play our teams, be in for 1 year and then go away. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You hold their feet to the fire and you tell them, look, you're not going to have a season unless you play with us. Now, and by the way, if you decide to dip on us and go somewhere else, then all of your other sports that are in our conference, bye-bye.
Yep. I agree with you.
Stop taking our money for basketball, men's and women's basketball, baseball, all these other sports. Stop taking our TV money from that and then keeping your one cherry over here, which is your football program. If you want to be part of it, come on in. If not, get out. He should have had a chicken with Notre Dame, but he didn't. And he rolled over and he let them take care of them like that, and it ended up costing them. Now Notre Dame just does whatever the hell they want to do.
They always do. And I got a buddy that's a Florida State booster, and Florida State has filed lawsuits and all that. He said the TV contract, the ACC universities don't have a copy of it, and the only way to look at the granted rights deal is to go to the ACC headquarters and have to be escorted in by a security guard to look at it. So they don't even have a.
Respectfully, sir, I think he's feeding you a lot of crap, because we've seen the contract's been online.
Yeah, there's some pretty good lawyers down there.
I've seen the contract, sir. So I mean,
really? So
absolutely.
what's the documents you got to see? Is there documents that you can only see with the security guard at the ACC office?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of it's freedom of information stuff that they just got. I know that the Charlotte Observer had some of it, but I know that obviously there's certain pieces that you're not going to be able to see just because of business stuff, etc. And I'm not a lawyer, but the gist of it you can see, and that's with any conference. So
until they get this granted rights, Florida State and Clemson pretty much stuck in the ACC.
Yeah, well, it's not their fault. They signed it.
Right.
So,
Well, I know Florida State in '92 had a chance to join the SEC, but they told the SEC to go pound sand, so to speak. And
Bobby Bowden didn't want anything to do with that.
no,
Why, when South Carolina joined the conference, and Gamecock fans get pissed when you talk about this, but if you know your history, they were like the fifth choice.
yeah,
They were the fifth choice. They wanted Arkansas.
yep,
Real. They wanted Arkansas. That was one of their first things. They wanted Florida State. And they were like Texas, but there were some others too. South Carolina was the fifth choice. And
Wow.
a lot of SEC writers, including Paul Feinbaum, wrote for years when he was writing about how South Carolina was going to destroy the conference and everything else. Gamecock fans don't want to hear about that either. But that's why I think it's funny when they have like that SEC kickoff show or whatever, and Feinbaum's on the set.
yeah.
If I were a Gamecock fan, I would be booing and hissing. They're cheering him like, yay!
Because Feinbaum, he plays both sides of it. Because he was one of the ones saying he backed the move to bring South Carolina to the conference.
No, he didn't.
I know, but he said it. He did say that. He claims he had made a claim that he did back South. He did, but I doubt because Paul Feinbaum, I don't believe nothing he says.
He's I call him Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings because that's what he looks like.
Well,
Emma, my precious Nick Saban.
But what he is, he's the sports talk version of Jerry Springer.
Oh, I don't buy that. I mean, I guess with some of the people that he's got there, but Jerry Springer didn't get he didn't have the power to get the commissioner of the conference on his program. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he gets great guests. Let's be honest with that, but he caters to the folks at Alabama. He doesn't. It's funny too, especially he was more weird when Florida had their run with Urban Meyer, when they got all those guys out of prison to win championships for them and had Tebow winning games. Like Feinbaum hated that shit. And it's the same way now. I mean, now he tries to look at Georgia about, oh, Georgia, shut up. You're just trying to make amends until hopefully Alabama gets back to being on top. He kills me with the shit that he says. It's hilarious.
I don't even keep up with him anymore. Ever since he moved up to Charlotte, I don't, he left Birmingham for Charlotte when he got to deal with. So I haven't even watched his program. I mean, every now and then, if I can, I'll tune in if something interesting happened on there. But for the most part, I just listen to like the local Tuscaloosa, Gary Harrison, and the local guys in Tuscaloosa, and Martin Houston, some of them.
Those guys, I'm sure, do a good job down there. But when it comes to the old Feinbaum, I just laugh and laugh.
I think he's kind of run his course. I think he's kind of. Speaking of news, I don't know if y'all heard, but Eli Gold, the longtime radio voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, was let go earlier this week. And
that's sad. Yeah,
it was pretty crappy because he met with them. They told him, well, you're not living up to the standard. And, he told him, he's like, well, I'll come back.
How long? Wait a minute. I got to look this up. How long has Eli Gold been there?
36 years.
So he's at Alabama for 36 years. That means he started in 1988.
Right. Took over from Paul Kennedy.
He is the voice of Alabama football. How can you sit there in this nice shack that Nick Saban built for you and talk about how Eli Gold is not living up to the standard of Alabama football? Have you lost your mind?
Well, he said Tide 100.9 did an interview with him.
Yeah.
They said he met with the AD and the vice president of Learfield or whoever, the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Right.
There. And he said a few things on air or something they didn't like. This has been going on for a couple of months.
He's got 36 years. He's not a rookie.
I know.
He has some leeway. I assure you, he has not pissed off one Alabama fan unless those Alabama fans that are Auburn fans when Auburn has a good season.
After 36 years, he is the standard.
Right.
But then they're going to bring somebody else in, and
Chris
this
Stewart.
guy, I don't know Mr. Stewart, but
He
Mr.
does the Alabama basketball, and he done well. Well, Eli took off 1 year because he had cancer, and Chris Stewart filled in. And then last year, they didn't let Eli do road games, and Eli said that wasn't his choice; that was the network's choice. So
Well, here's what I know about Mr. Stewart. He has a set of cojones because he's in there trying to take over for an absolute legend, and that is good, not good at all.
But
So, we'll see how that goes.
but this was going on for after Eli got killed of cancer, and last year he only did the home games, and Eli told him I could travel to the away games, but they didn't allow him. They kind of offered Eli, he wasn't going to be the play-by-play man, but they tried to offer him another position with the company, with the network.
I worked for Learfield for a while doing sportscasts for them. They're abrupt when they fire people. I learned that the hard way.
Oh yeah, I remember you had your show, and then
No, I mean I worked for Learfield and iHeart at the same time. So I work at iHeart during the day, then I would cut sportscasts at night for Learfield. But Learfield was like, I just got a call like one Thursday after I'd cut, or actually it was on a Friday. Hey, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's just the way, and it wasn't anything that I'd done. I mean, I've been cutting sportscasts for them for years. Then all of a sudden, oh no, we're not going to do that. And then 18 months later, my company bought the network that they had for South Carolina. And then I was cutting the same sportscast, but then still working for iHeart.
Now, how much? I remember one episode of your afternoon show. How much trouble did you get in when Peg and Megan called up and said the word shit live on air?
I didn't catch too much hell for that.
Okay.
I can tell you what I got a talking to about. I got a talking to about when the president of the university lied on the air, or lied and said that they weren't trying to, he didn't talk to the Florida State people about how to get rid of Muschamp because they just got rid of their coach. So he was trying to figure out how to do that. Said that he didn't do it. Told one of my friends in Myrtle Beach that was doing something with the Myrtle Beach Online paper. President Dr. Caslin said, oh, yeah, I did talk to them, and then told the press the next day, no, I didn't. But then I had him on tape with my friend in Myrtle Beach who sent me the tape. And I just didn't tell anybody. I just said, fuck it, and just put it on the air. So basically, I told the head of the biggest university in South Carolina, yeah, you're a liar. Here's the proof. That didn't go over too well. So I caught some grief with that, with like, anytime you have something like that where you are going to blister someone that has as much power as the university president, at least run it by us first. I did catch hell for that.
So if South Carolina were to make a move on Shane Beamer, who would they go after, you think?
I don't know. What are you doing, Big Barney Ross? Would you move from Kentucky?
I believe I'd give the reins to Mr. Elliott.
Well, I mean, you don't want the job, Big Barney Ross? We put you in a guard, right?
No, I'm holding out for the defensive line coaching job at Kentucky, because our offensive line couldn't stop a beach ball.
Wow.
Champions.
Did
I look good in practice.
Yeah.
Did they make some staff changes this offseason at Kentucky?
Don't they every season?
Yeah.
Who they got now? Who they bought in as OC?
They got Oregon's. Boise State, and I got a whole. His name is Bush Hamden, and all my Army buddies sent me people of just Bush this, shave your bush, Bush this, Bush. But he was a pretty decent OC up there at Boise. I mean, it was a whole lot better than they scored a lot, and that's something Kentucky doesn't really do. As far as line coaches and everything, we got our guy back from Alabama that transferred down there. Stoops has put together a pretty decent package now. Kentucky's known to do a lot of dumb stuff, like put 10 people on the field in the final 4 minutes and let teams score on us. But I don't know. I think we might be past that this year.
Yeah. Who's the quarterback coming in? Didn't y'all get a good transfer?
We got Brock Vandergriff from Georgia.
That's right.
And Cutter Bull came back to Kentucky, and he was a rated 5-star. So I feel pretty solid because that's hurt us a lot, losing our starting quarterback. And the next guy, we got to put a wide receiver back there, Lynn Bowden or something,
So y'all looking to make it 4 straight against Florida this year, ain't y'all?
Well, Billy Napier is going to help us a whole lot. I just don't have a lot of confidence in Billy Napier. As far as the Florida's program, it's hard to see them. I've got them dead last in my coaches poll. I think Vanderbilt's better because I believe if you put Vanderbilt's coach in Florida, they would improve. I mean, Florida's been losing to Vanderbilt. So, I mean, Billy just took on a job that he just wasn't prepared for, and that's helped Kentucky. When everybody was down, Kentucky won 10 games. I mean, the whole,
Yeah.
I think when you talk to Billy Napier, he just says things like this.
I don't know shit about fuck.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, is it really Billy Napier or is it the administration at the University of Florida?
They've cut off his spending. They've cut off his money. I mean, they're sending a pretty strong message to Billy Napier. His NIL money and everything.
Right.
They did stretching instead of Olympic weights. That's one reason why Kentucky pushed them around.
Yeah.
Their strength conditioning coach, which they got a new one. Yeah. He's going back to a traditional weightlifting program. So you might see a difference there.
Oh, but respectfully, sir, when Percy Harvin was there at Florida and they were winning national titles, Percy Harvin was telling them, fuck you, I'm not running. That actually happened. People don't know much about that, but maybe there's something to that. I mean, I guess when you're Percy Harvin, though, you can get away with that.
Rob, when you run the prison yard, you can do whatever you want to.
That might be true.
I mean, that was a whole different that was a whole different ball of wax, that group down there. One of the things Muschamp said on the way out when he got let go of Florida was, he said, well, I was bought in to clean up this program, and I think I've done that. I mean,
right. Well, Kentucky's we're the middle of the road. We're the measuring stick. Now, the real question is, how do you feel about Alabama's football?
I feel pretty good. I think we got a good guy. I mean, he's 112. He won 3 national titles down there at one of them little schools at South Dakota, even though they were NIAA national titles. But he's got a pretty good resume. I think he's going to do pretty good. I mean, he was willing to come in and fill Saban's shoes, and I like what he did with Penix. Hopefully, he can do the same thing with Milroe, and I think we'll be all right.
I think he'll be fine until that first loss when you guys all go out there and throw real estate signs in his yard and you win 11-1, motherfucker. So, yeah, you can't be here at 11-1. That's not good enough, Alabama.
Well, I got a story from Big Barney Ross. I used to drive my first driving job for Hibbett Sports, and I was delivering, I think, in Danville, Kentucky, one of y'all's stores, and this guy was a big Kentucky fan. We got talking about basketball and football. He goes, well, as a Kentucky fan, if we just win 6 games and go to a bowl game, I'm satisfied. I'm like, what kind of fucking thinking is that? Just happy going to a bowl game? I mean,
well, how I determine somebody's football knowledge, if they say Kentucky's terrible, I just don't pay no attention. But if they say we're historically terrible, that guy knows some football.
Right. What part of Kentucky you reside in, Big Barney?
I'm over in Grayson County right now.
Okay.
Now I moved down here from East Tennessee, but I was originally born up in Eastern Kentucky. So,
what town in Eastern?
Corbin.
Corbin.
Yep.
That's the home of KFC.
So, hold on, we have to get this out there. There's not a picture of you as a child running around in that god-awful Tennessee orange, is there?
No.
Okay, about to say, because if someone from Big Barney Ross's family has that picture, I'd like to make him a star.
Oh, yeah, Rob likes to get incriminating videos and photos. He's got a way of getting them, I know.
I took all the white off of the Tennessee shirt and made it a hunter's jacket.
Very good. Now I can buy that. So, no, I'm looking at you. But no, it's funny, though, the way that people have a different perspective. I'm the same way with Clemson basketball. I mean, if we make the tournament, I'm happy. We're going to make the tournament this year. But consistently, we have been shit for a long time. So, yeah.
14 years. This will be your fourth time in 14 years right here.
Yeah.
Make the tournament.
Yeah. There you go. All right, Tom, we got to move on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, I got to get your opinion on this, Big Barney Ross, before we move into something else. Wake Forest got a program-defining win yesterday over the Duke Blue Devils. They stormed the court and injured one of the Duke players. Are we going to get to a point now where it's like we really need to cut this shit out with people going onto the courts? I mean, the kid got hurt. I'm all about fans getting their money's worth and going out there. You had the clip from Clark, the women's player, Caitlin Clark, where she got run into by somebody. It's a safety issue, in my opinion. Stay the fuck off the court. I don't know why people want to go and do that. I really don't.
Well, I concur. And when Kentucky didn't block out against LSU, they stormed the court and they had to pay Kentucky $100,000. Now, a lot of these colleges, is the bond, they got to be bonded on a lot of this insurance. And, it's getting to the point where everybody's got a camera. And I'm sure a lot of people got hurt in the past, but nobody was filming it. Now we can actually see, and we live in the age of the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for the university's protection, the players' protection more than anything, and the people, safety first. Keep it simple.
You got remember, there's all kinds of different people at a basketball game. If you've got, let's be honest, down near the court at a lot of these arenas are some really much older folks because they have more money and they have the capability of getting better tickets that are closer to the floor. People that are running down from the upper part of the bowl there, they may run over some of these old people and hurt them. Not in just the idea of the athletes that are on the floor and the officials and whoever else, but hitting them in the pocketbook hasn't done anything. I think we need to get to a point now where at the end of games, you need to rope it off, put a rope there, and have enough security guards where if you go watch a Braves game right now, when they have in between the innings or whatever, they line the damn field with, 6 or 8 officers down the first base and third base line, and they're all looking up, wishing a motherfucker would. And I think if you just have that officer there just as the idea of safety, which the university should have to pay for them, by the way.
Yeah.
Put it in your tickets. But, hey, if I run down there, that cop's going to get me. I think that's something that has to happen at some point because the $100,000 the university doesn't give a shit.
No, and you imagine me running, say I'm on the 8th row and I take off running and I trip and fall on somebody.
Yeah. But even if and these dum-dums, if they've had enough drinks, they could fall and hurt themselves, fall on other people. It's just not good. Katusa says not many 80-year-olds rushing the court. No, but they're sitting down there. They're
Front
sitting
row.
on their seats in the front row. I've been a Gamecock Silver Spur for 27 fucking years, given $50,000 a year, so I get to sit next to the coach. That happens, sir. That absolutely happens, and that's across the country, not just with the Gamecocks. So,
if you look at Rupp Arena, there's little old women knitting in the front row. Every now and then there'll be an empty seat beside them. That's because their husband died and they elected to go to the game instead of the funeral.
Well, and Ashley Judd's down there. You know, you don't play running her ass over. We don't need that. Billy, welcome to the program.
What an honor and a privilege to be on with Big Barney Ross.
Hey,
I
thanks,
try to
Billy.
bring people in that would Jackpot and I love to listen to a lot of the wrestling podcasts, and Bruce Pritchard says if you can't replace the guy that you've got with someone on that level. You got to go like 4 levels above so the crowd gets more of what they want. I mean, you got to have a home run hitter. So I said, you know what? When I got the message Kale was going to be out today, I was like, I'm going to text Big Barney Ross. We'll get him on the program.
You picked a good one. Hey,
Billy, I just got one thing to say to you.
Yes, sir.
After y'all gave the NCAA a what for, don't you think it's time for your football team to step up and make the playoffs, and maybe your basketball team get out of the second round and really show that NCAA where to stick it?
Yeah. Well, you know what amazes me is there are people, and I'm not going to say their initials, that were wishing Tennessee got tagged. This wasn't a Tennessee thing. This was an NCAA NIL deal.
So respectfully, if you go back to what I said it's an NIL deal and it's bullshit. I think what you got before, you should have gotten tagged for. I stand behind that because
we're talking about this.
But I'm just saying,
federal judge came in and put an injunction.
I wanted you
the NIL to stop. We know how you feel about it, you know. So,
but the NIL stuff is just bullshit. I mean, it was funny that Tennessee got popped because I like watching, 90 of your fans all sharing 3 teeth, losing their fucking minds about it. That made me happy.
I'm trying to be serious here, and you're choking. And being upstate from Clemson, I've been there. The trailer parks are big there too. But this was about a federal judge ruled on the NCAA to stay out of NIL because the rules were ambiguous.
It was us against them, us being football fans.
There was teams, mediocre teams, probably like South Carolina, that couldn't bid on Nico to begin with, which they didn't. But Lincoln Riley, from what we understand now, was the prime culprit out there because that's where he's from. And he brought this forward. So now a federal judge has intervened and told the NCAA, leave it alone, because you had ambiguous rules. You had rules for high school kids. You had rules for college kids. And Nick Saban told us this a couple of years ago. The rules are ambiguous.
Do you think Hendon Hooker is responsible for the Nico $8 million? Do you think they thought, man,
I don't know.
If he could just be Hendon Hooker, let's take a chance. Let's give him $8 million.
He's a 5-star, and he was the number 1 quarterback coming out of college. So I don't know. So he chose Tennessee for various reasons. $8 million of them. The 22 schools that offered him, all of them had 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Tennessee's got 2. And they got a quarterback, the head coach that was a quarterback that can develop people. So, and he runs a certain type of offense. So, I don't get it why these mediocre schools was hoping Tennessee would get the death penalty. Do you think after that rule and put on probation, these kids up here are told not to even jaywalk on campus? So surely they wouldn't have done nothing.
I have to break in with this because Gamecock fans will appreciate this. Remember, I said I text my good friend Tim Frisbee earlier. I'll show it to you there. Tim Frisbee says, I could certainly do the job, but like I said, I can't even get a follow on Twitter from Coach Beamer. So that's how Tim Frisbee is in the land of the Gamecocks there. So I think that it's safe to say Tim Frisbee is out. The thought of him going in and coaching the wide receivers is out. So sorry, I had to break
as far
that.
As Beamer, I've always been kind of in his corner. Give the guy 3 or 4 years. Give him 4 good recruiting years. You might be surprised. The transfer portal's been good to him this year in the offseason. So who knows? And with the Sellers kid coming in, they could put something together.
They don't have anybody to throw the ball to, sir.
Well, we'll see.
They don't have their offensive line has been the shits for a while.
We know this.
They're going to figure that out. And their defense was,
well, yeah.
Billy, would you give up Kelsey Pope to help out South Carolina?
Yeah. In the interest of giving, sir.
Sure.
You're a giving soul. Why don't you give him up and help out a fellow SEC team? You don't play the Gamecocks anymore. How's it going to hurt you?
It ain't going to hurt us at all. I mean, they're following the money. If the money was right.
I love how Bill's like, fuck it, go. And then if he does go, Billy's would be like, that asshole.
Well, that's when Lane Kiffin left. All of them around here was wanting to burn Kiffin's house down. I didn't care. There's other coaches. He's from California.
Virtual Jackpot has his comments on Cole.
I'm mad. I'm just a little bit perturbed.
Of course you are.
Yeah, but you got Bush Jones to come in there and he laid a brick.
You take a gamble when you hire these guys.
Yeah.
And you give them 3 or 4 years. I think Beamer needs 4 good recruiting years.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
I don't think they're going to give it to him. I personally think that they're not going to win another game in October. The second year in a row that's happened will be this year. And I think that they're going to go probably 5-7. And I don't like ripping them because, you guys watch Jackpot streams, man. He lives and dies with those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But on the realistic side, when you look at that schedule and what they've got coming back, unless they're
go look at the transfer portal, Rob. You've seen it. They got some quality players coming in. And if
a mesh in 1 year, you don't have a wide receivers coach right now. You got a new run game coordinator. I mean, there's a lot of shit that has to come together for them to get to 7 wins.
Well, he'll be fine.
The clock is ticking. Spring training is.
Well, the clock is ticking when they hired Sean Elliott. That's when the clock started.
Hey, will you guys at Tennessee give Shane Beamer a job as like the head cooler kicker? I mean,
he could probably coach the long snappers, didn't he? Wasn't he a long snapper? Or
I thought. I mean, he is a 5-star transfer in the cooler kicking department. I mean, that's where he's got to go.
Well, I wish, if anything, South Carolina. I did not know his resume and stuff, but after I seen it, he doesn't have a quality resume.
No,
he doesn't. Why did they hire him to begin with? Is questionable.
He wanted to be there. First of all, that's thing number one. Thing number two, they were on the hook for $17 million with Muschamp. Beamer agreed to come in at $2.4 million. They were paying Don Staley, a women's basketball coach, that doesn't draw the revenue. Even if they sell out the Colonial Life Arena every week, men's or women's, they're not going to draw the same amount of money as that football team will. And they said, we want our football coach to be the lowest paid coach in the conference. I mean, that's what they did. That's there.
It's now he's there, and I'm give him a chance. So is this his 4th year recruiting?
Sure.
I don't know where South Carolina is in the transfer portal, but they got to be up near the top.
They got Rocket Sanders.
Okay.
They got the running back they got from SC State was like an all MEAC player.
Right.
People are going to overlook him because he played at a small HBCU, but he was lights out. I think he's going to be the best running back there because I don't think he's had people telling him for 3 seasons, oh my God, you're the best running back in the history of running backs.
Right.
He knows he's got to go up there and earn his spot, and I think he's going to run his ass off.
I'm going on what is it? The shelf of what is it you got there?
Accountability.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going on record. I think South Carolina goes 6-6 and goes to a bowl game. I think they'll surprise some people.
I mean, winning one more game than the 5-7 is you're really stretching it out there. Really stretching it out there, sir.
For all the reasons you just said, with all the new players, all the new system, all the new coaches, and I thank God they got rid of Mario Hardesty because he was the problem they was losing.
You think so?
Mario Hardesty. I am so glad he left. They got rid of him because he was the problem. He was the problem. And the dietitian. The dietitian's the problem.
Do not mention the strength and training staff because, I mean, Jackpot's going to rewatch this later. and
I'm
he's going
not. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. No.
Hey, the real question here is though. Peyton Manning gave some pretty good props to Nico. He didn't really come out and use the words Heisman candidate, but he thought really highly of him. How do you feel your chances are making it to the CFP this year, Billy?
I've got us ceiling wise 9-3.
Well, that's not going to get it done, is it?
Well, 9-3 is fine with me.
it
if you
might
look at the schedule, if
it
you
might
look at
be, man, depending on how the rest of the field goes. I think there's going to be some 10-2 teams that are going to make the CFP next year.
I do too.
Well, I'll go on record too here. I think the SEC champ next year will be 10-2 because of all the additions to the SEC and the schedule changes. It's brutal now.
I personally think that Ole Miss's schedule is garbage, and they could go 12-0. So, I think so.
You think Georgia's going to go 10-2?
They could. They might. I don't know. I'm just saying if Ole Miss can. When you look at the Ole Miss schedule, I mean, when I remember looking at it, we looked at it a couple weeks ago. Hold on, I'll bring it back up. But the Ole Miss schedule is so. Let's see here. I've got it right here.
And we still have Georgia, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Same old ones.
Ole Miss has Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina. They play LSU in Baton Rouge, and they've got Georgia in Oxford, Mississippi State, Florida. They play Oklahoma in Oxford. They've got what, two games
or three
that are really tough there, but I think they could go. They have just as good a shot at going 12-0 as a lot of these other teams that are in there. So, but then again, they'll go 8-4 and.
But no, Big Barney Ross, I'm not a delusional. 9-3. 9-3. Got a new quarterback, so 9-3. And especially their schedule and everything. So it's SEC got a lot tougher when they threw Texas in there in Oklahoma.
What was your schedule? What was y'all last year? Was y'all 9-3 last year?
I can't even remember. I think so.
So you're not going to progress. You're not going to degress. You're just going to maintain. You're going to tread water.
Big Barney Ross, we still have Georgia and Alabama on our schedule, and we never can beat Florida. So you tell me.
Right,
you got Alabama at home.
Hold on, sir.
That don't matter.
It did that year.
Tennessee, you play Chattanooga in Knoxville, NC State and Charlotte, Kent State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida, Alabama at home. Florida's at home too, so you don't have to go to Gainesville.
There's 2 L's.
You get Kentucky in Knoxville.
There's a W.
Knoxville. You get Georgia in Athens. That'll be tough. And then you got UTEP and Vanderbilt. I mean, from what I've heard, Nico's the best quarterback since they invented the forward pass, and Josh Heupel is the best head coach since Vince Lombardi. You guys have to go 11-1, or he's going to get fired, right?
No.
Alabama's coach has not seen Neyland Stadium packed. He don't know the pain.
He hasn't been in a stadium with 105,000 people, mustard
That's
balls
right.
and golf balls. He just don't know what he's getting into.
He better bring the mustard.
You better bring the mustard. You better be ready.
I got to move on, man. I appreciate you.
Later. Good show. Nice meeting you, Big Barney.
Yep,
All right.
you too.
All right, let's go. Let's get Chris from Georgia in here. Chris, welcome to the program, sir.
9-3 is a ceiling? That's wild, man.
I didn't say that.
I know. Barney. I think Barney's, or not Barney, but Billy's just trying to appease you or something. I don't know, man.
Well, no, I mean, Billy's seen enough Tennessee football where he doesn't want to get his hopes up and then have them crushed. Like,
yeah,
if they
but that's not a ceiling. That's if
ever, he's
you could
expecting
say.
less. So if they get more, then he's going to be happier. That's the road he's taking.
That's fine. There's one for-sure loss on that schedule next year.
Hey, that makes me feel better. I got you at 10-2.
Chattanooga?
I mean, 10-2 is more likely than
get you in the playoffs.
Wait, what's the one loss? Chattanooga?
No, Georgia, I think, is the one pretty set in loss. I mean, Alabama came into Neyland and got 100 hung on them, and that was with the greatest coach of all time and probably their best quarterback of all time. Now, Jalen Milroe, who is pretty bad on the road. When he goes on the road, it takes 4th and 31 for him to even he's literally losing to teams that lost to New Mexico till the very last minute, losing to teams that lost to New Mexico State the week before. He's not good on the road.
How did Milroe do against you guys last year? I don't remember.
At home, he had a good second half. We were beating the dog shit out of him the first half.
How he did as far as his stats go. I know they won the game.
I think he had two. I think he was 60%, 200 yards, something like that. Nothing crazy. He had a good second half. He was
sure.
They were killing him. He fumbled the ball. James Pierce knocked the shit out of him.
We could talk about the Alabama quarterback all you want, but Jahmyr Gibbs was on that team, and he was the one that was lighting up that ball defense in Knoxville, even though they lost. So,
well, that was him and Bryce. Him running, he didn't do anything. It's hard to run on Tennessee.
They set him up with the receiving yards. That's how he got his yards. They didn't get any yards between the tackles. So
that's just not the type of running back he was. But I don't know. I'm not worried. Kalen DeBoer doesn't run the ball well, anyways. He's got his offense has averaged 115 yards a game, and if you look at stats for the last 20 seasons, there's not been a team win a national championship rushing less than 150 yards since Josh Heupel's Oklahoma team did it in 2000. That's how long you got to rush for 150 yards, or you're not going to win the national championship.
Clemson's 2018 team, I don't think did that. Are you sure about that? I'm not.
I went back and looked at the numbers. They rushed. They were one of the lesser ones. Them and LSU were both 165 yards.
I know that. If you went back and looked it up, that's fine. But I just know that ETN had yards in that game, but he had more yards on foot passes and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the whole season. He just doesn't. He kind of runs a more stretched out air raid. I know you guys want to give Tennessee shit for being a gimmick. DeBoer runs a gimmick offense. If you look, it's like a stretched out air raid instead of throwing mesh routes.
Run up to the sidelines and try to gain advantages like that. Is that what he does?
They run wide splits and like I said, they're throwing it 70% of the times, just like Mike Leach did, and everybody called Mike Leach's shit a gimmick. The only difference is that he'll throw the ball deep instead of on a mesh route. If you're not
with that kind of offense, though. Even with what you were talking about earlier, no one's really won with that kind of offense, won a championship.
Yeah, I agree. And people say Heupel's not going to. Neither is DeBoer. DeBoer basically, if you look at DeBoer's, if you cut off Mark Helfrich's career at 2015, if you say at 2015, you go back to 2015 and you look at Mark Helfrich's career and Kalen DeBoer's career, they're almost identical. They both made a playoff. They both beat a pretty powerful team in the first round. They had a generational quarterback for their school, and they went to the big game and got mollywopped off the field because they weren't physical enough. That's exactly what Mark Helfrich did, and he can't even get an OC job. Nobody's itching to hire him. He lived off a team built by someone else. Chip Kelly left him every player he had, all them running backs and wide receivers. DeBoer, his wide receivers, they were recruited by Jimmy Lake and Chris Peterson. He stole Penix. He didn't recruit Penix to Indiana, but he stole him from Indiana. But that shouldn't be too hard. It's Indiana. The man, and he's coming into the South, and everybody's like, well, he got Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams was committed to Alabama for 350 of the last 365 days. Let's not act like he sat there and did a coup and went and stole Georgia's best player or something. He had a kid that grew up an Alabama fan that wanted to be at Alabama, that had been committed to Alabama for 90% of the last year, and he kept him at Alabama. That's a good recruiting pool, but let's not act like he's built inroads in the South. And Brian Harsin couldn't build his relationships in the South. Willie Taggart couldn't build relationships in the South. These Pac-12 coaches come to the South, or these Pacific Northwest coaches come to the South, and they realize, oh, this ain't Pac-12 football. There's a reason the Pac-12 conference is dead. It's a soft conference.
Would you consider the air raid offense a gimmick offense?
I think any offense that's going to score you points is a good offense.
What about the Wildcat?
If it scores you points, it beat us in 2011 with.
Yeah, but nobody.
What about the hurry up offense?
People been running it. Saban ran it. Was it a gimmick when Saban was running it?
Didn't Josh Heupel run that?
Yeah. So does Lane Kiffin. Everybody thinks Lane Kiffin's an offensive genius. And he literally stole his offense from Heupel after Levy taught it to him.
That's the thing that people don't. They mistake what I'm saying. If your offense is based on tempo, is get up there as fast as we possibly can, and hopefully we can confuse the defense and get them into a position where they're not in what their base is supposed to be. That's the gimmick part of it. When you start bitching because, hey, this guy slows down the tempo of your offense, that's a gimmick. That's what it is. I don't.
Well, what if they put? Would you consider it a gimmick if they started putting size limitations on certain positions? What if Derrick Henry could never play running back? Is that not a gimmick? Having a 250-pound running back, you can feed the ball 45 times a game.
You're comparing an apple to a kumquat, sir.
I'm not. There's a reason why in the rec league they put a red X on your helmet if you're too big and don't let you run the ball.
But that's a safety issue, man. That's
also a fact that
75-pound eighth graders knocking out 90-pound eighth graders. That's a completely different thing.
I mean, nobody complained when Derrick Henry was getting 45 carries a game. They didn't even give the other running backs carries.
Oh, so what? You have the opportunity. Derrick Henry was running straight power plays.
You have the opportunity to stop a tempo.
Right. Well, and how you stop it is, I cramped my leg. Sorry. Slow down. It's the same thing, right?
Well, Lane Kiffin is known to flop.
And I mean, Kentucky tried it 2 years ago, and they still got 45 points, 40-something points hung on their head. I mean,
that's not really fair, sir. That's like Kentucky playing Tennessee is like Tennessee going down to Gainesville. Something just happens. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. All I can say is that you guys have issues winning there, and Kentucky has issues beating Tennessee. Kentucky's best team plays Tennessee and fucking loses. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't disagree with you there, but
you guys should have went down to Florida last year and beat the holy shit out of them. On paper, you were the better team. Heupel's a better coach. Okay? You had no business losing that game, but for some reason, when you guys put that Gainesville line, I don't know if it's the Burger King's bad food or whatever, but
a lot of teams struggle in Gainesville. It's just that some of their biggest rivals they get to avoid Gainesville.
The Florida Gators have been struggling in Gainesville, so that's
Billy's got a winning record in Gainesville. He's got a losing record outside of Gainesville. He's not beat a bowl eligible team outside of the friendly confines of the Swamp yet. He's beat two teams outside the Swamp. There's a 5-7 Texas A&M and a 5-7 South Carolina. He can't beat a good team outside the Swamp. That's why I don't think he's going to come into Neyland and win. I think every team, if he's in Jacksonville, if he's in a bowl game, on the rare occasion he makes one, he doesn't win. They're a terrible team on the road, but they're a solid team at home.
Well, Caller, how do you feel about Tennessee's chances of making the CFP, and what do you think they're going to do if they get there?
I still think they've got spaces they need to fill up. I think they've got a solid. They've got really good 4 players on the O line. They need to find a guard, a right guard, but the depth is going to be the issue there. I think they've got one of the best D lines in the conference. The secondary is going to be a question mark. It just depends on who they match up with. They could win one in the playoffs if they made it. If they go 10-2, they'll make the playoffs. But there's a lot of teams that are supposed to go 10-2 in the conference, so we'll see how that shakes out. I'm more confident in Missouri going 10-2 than I am Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, you could say it's sour grapes, but that man, he had 2 years where he had zero expectations put on him because they couldn't make the postseason, and he goes 10-2 at USC. The moment he has that bowl ban ends and he's got expectations on him, he shits the bed. He goes 10-2 at Ole Miss. The next year, everybody's like, okay, you went 10-2, expectations on you. He goes 8-5, shits the bed. No expectations this year. He wins 10 games. Now he's got all the expectations in the world, and he built a team of mercenaries. And I'm not quite sold on Walter Nolan and the guys. Like Texas A&M spent a lot of money to keep guys that they kept and they didn't use any of that money on Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan's a 5-star, and the dude's got 4 sacks his whole career, and that was against South Carolina, who had one of the worst O-lines in the conference last year, Alabama, who had one of the worst O-lines in the conference last year, and Arkansas, who had the 4th worst O-line in the conference last year. This man, you have a competent O-line, and that man becomes a nobody. Like, I'm just not – he's supposed to be their savior. And then you run off, basically, speaking of Derrick Henry, you got your Derrick Henry, dude's responsible for 15 of your touchdowns, over 40 of your touchdowns the last 2 years, and you run him off because he doesn't like how your O-line blocked for him? That's insane to me. That would be
– So you don't see Tennessee getting to the CFP and then pulling a TCU?
No, I think they could win one, but I think the moment they would go up against a Georgia or an Ohio State, it'd be too much for them to handle. Right now, I think they'll get better, but their talent is really young.
Brock makes a good point. Didn't Hypo go 10-2, get expectations high, and then won 8 games the next year?
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that we met expectations. I think a lot of people knew what Joe Milton was. I think Josh Heupel made Joe Milton better compared to what he was, but he had a ceiling. Every quarterback's got a ceiling.
He throw the ball 70 yards from one knee, sir.
I mean, so can Craig Kimbrell can throw it from foul pole to foul pole, but if that man comes into close for you anymore, get ready to lose.
Will Nico make the Heisman?
Man, when it comes to Tennessee and the Heisman, I would never put money on that just because.
Are you still hurt over Peyton's Heisman campaign?
Not even just him. Johnny Majors comes in second for the Heisman and loses it to the only man to ever. Notre Dame was 2-8 that year, and their quarterback won the Heisman. But Johnny Majors and Jim friggin' Brown.
But back then, sir, the Heisman Trophy voting was weighed heavily towards Notre Dame.
Oh, I don't doubt it, but I'm just saying every time Tennessee's finished second for the Heisman 4 times, and they don't have any.
Did Hendon Hooker get robbed?
I think he deserved to be invited, but they're not gonna. They don't want a kid on crutches on TV. Like that's all there was to it. They didn't want a kid in crutches standing up there on TV.
I think that Hooker
stats
season. He had the stats. He did the numbers and everything else, but.
I mean, they sent Stetson Bennett
South Carolina game, and he would have went out and lit up Vanderbilt the week afterwards. He probably would have been there.
Yeah, like I said, they didn't want. And Stetson. I mean, when they determined who was going to. Stetson had 20 total touchdowns when he got voted. He wasn't even the best player on his team. They just sent him because he was on Georgia, and they weren't going to send a tight end. But he wasn't even the best player on his team.
Here, the other end of it too is that. A lot of these guys that have Heisman votes, I mean, you could turn them in the second week of November.
Yeah.
So I mean,
there was a guy. They interviewed a guy.
By then,
they interviewed a guy. I think he was out of Minnesota or Illinois or something. But he covered college football in the '90s and got a Heisman vote. And he has covered hockey full time for the last 18 years. He says he doesn't even watch college football anymore, and he still has a Heisman vote. Because they don't take it away from you. And he's literally been covering hockey full-time for 18 years. And he said he hasn't watched a football game from beginning to end probably in the last 15. And he's still voting on the Heisman. That's insane to me.
Well, your basketball team is rated 5th this year. And the last game of the season for y'all is going to be the make or break. You know who you're playing there.
Yeah, I think I'm more worried about the Alabama game. I think if they can beat Alabama and Coleman, they can beat Kentucky and Thompson Bowl or Food City, whatever they call it now. But
so if you get that 1-2 seed, how do you see Tennessee playing out in the NCAA tournament?
Depends on who they draw, man. The last time we've gotten the top, we've never gotten a 1 seed, but we got a 2 seed, and they literally put us in the hardest. They put us in the hardest bracket they could, and
should be in the South region.
We should be. I would love to. Tennessee should be playing in Memphis, but we'll see if that happens. But they'll probably put us. We pissed the NCAA off, so they'll probably put us in like San Diego or something.
Well, if you get in the East region, you're going to have UConn, St. John, Michigan State. It's a little bit tougher there.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino ain't no judge.
Michigan State going to make the playoffs?
They're going to be one of the 4 teams probably at the very bottom of the bracket trying to get in it.
They had some bad games early in the season. I'm surprised they got any quad one wins.
They'll probably play New Mexico State or somebody just to see if they can make it. That'd be the games before the bracket ever starts, probably.
We beat the dog piss out of them in I think the Maui game or something. Or it might have just been a exhibition, and I was like, damn, we beat. Which they were a couple guys were out, but I was like, damn, it's Michigan State, and then they just started the season like 1-4. I was like, maybe that win wasn't as good as I thought it was, but
well, definitely the region matters. The teams that you're going to have to line up and play matters, but this is Tennessee's had the talent to go deep and just fell short for some odd reason. I mean, of course, Kentucky lost to St. Mary's, so I understand it can happen to anybody. But this year here, there's a lot of pressure, it seems like, for Tennessee to
this might be the most talented team we had, but I mean, even with that Grant and Admiral team, I think that one of those teams lost to Loyola Chicago. So, I mean, it could happen. But you think Nate Oates, you think he's going to leave Alabama for one of them Big Ten jobs?
I think it depends on how the season plays out. Because people will change their mind if they leave a bad taste, what could have been, or, have a great run.
I know that Illinois job, I've heard Bruce's name get mentioned for it a couple times, but
I've heard Rick Pitino's name being thrown around against Clemson, and Clemson will probably face St. John's for 11 seed.
Yeah, I don't. As a Clemson fan, I don't want anything to do with a
Rick Pitino. I wouldn't want to play Rick Pitino either.
I don't give a shit if he had a damn 16 seed and Clemson had their 1 seed and their beacon of existence was awesome. I don't want anything to do with a Rick Pitino basketball team. There'll be enough sucking and fucking and cocaine and everything else in that 16 seed. They'll knock Clemson off.
You can't underestimate the one-eyed Jack.
I think my Rick Barnes replacement might get picked up if Missouri don't win a conference game, because I think if Missouri loses out, they're going to fire him and they're going to go get Kim English out of Providence, and that was he might be at George Mason. You don't think they'll fire him if he goes over in the conference?
No, he has a top 5 recruiting class next season. He's got like 4 McDonald's All-Americans out there, brother. He's going to be fine.
Well, I think if Rick goes deep, if Rick can make another Final Four this year, or Lord willing,
isn't he 76 years old? I mean, how old?
I think he's 71. I think he's pretty young. I mean, not young, but he's not 76, but he's in the 70s. Yeah, but I think if he could go deep,
he looks like he just looks like he's just one of those guys that's been running on a treadmill forever and hasn't had carbs since 1972. So, I mean, he looks like he's really thin, but he just looks like he has no muscle on him left at all. I don't know how that's going to work out for him, to be honest. So,
but I think if he makes a deep run, he could retire. If we could go get, I think Kim English should make a good replacement for him. He's doing really good up there, and I mean, he's got some tough teams in his conference with Creighton and UConn. So and he's still doing really well. But I'd like to have him, but we're probably going to have to make I hope we make a Lady Vols hire this offseason. I'm hoping Kelly's gone.
I think that you should go after the Wake Forest basketball coach, because he's done pretty well up there with them, and he makes
Steve Forbes.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that like him, but then there's a lot of people he left a bad taste with the whole Bruce. I mean, he's a Bruce protege, so they might, but I mean, he's got a Power 5 job and a really great conference. He'd probably come pretty expensive. So, but
well, we'll see how that works out. Hey, thanks for joining the show.
No problem, man. You have a good night.
All right. Well, Big Marty Ross, last thing before we get you out of here, and thanks for stopping into the program this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Football game is coming out. Do you play video games, sir?
No, after my last tour, it's kind of like jumping out of an airplane. I don't really ride roller coasters anymore. It's just
I got you. But for the folks that do, the NCAA football game is coming out. They're giving these every player $600 and a copy of the game, and it's like, wow. I think that man, they work something, because I think the kids want to be in the game too. I think that's part of it. But I think that was a good deal for the kids.
I think EA Sports. I don't see why not. They've got the money. I think 600 is a little low.
That's kind of what I thought. I mean, they're going to get my $65. Look, the wife bought a PS5 for me at Christmas, not this last year, but the year before, just so I could play this fucking game. So they're going to get $65, and you know.
The real question here is when you get that game and you set the difficulty settings and you put all your cheat codes in, which team are you going to beat up on?
Oh, I mean, I'm an equal opportunity basher. I'm gonna go and let's see here. I mean, I want to knock over Florida State because Florida State loss is a win for America, and I'm probably gonna go and South Carolina as well, just so But
now, back when I played video games, I would set it up where I had all the strength and Louisville had nothing, and I would just score hundreds of points on them.
Is that what you did? I would take like a team that nobody cared about. I would take a small
Rutgers.
Not necessarily, not even a Power 5.
Austin
P, the Governors, or Murray State.
And
take them into Athens and with hundreds across the board for everybody, and then watch them beat the shit out of Georgia.
Well, before we go, I just wanted you to know that St. Mary's, the G's, the one that put Kentucky down, they're ranked 18th this year, ain't they? Kentucky's ranked 17th.
The Gales are a good team. They play in the same conference as Gonzaga, and they beat Gonzaga at home. I mean, they're not. I mean, on the road, they're not. The Gales are no joke. So, yeah.
Well, there is a scenario if you're 11th seed, and I think if Kentucky's the 7th seed, if you win out, we win out, we'll meet in the Midwest.
With Clemson and Kentucky, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, in the middle of the.
I'm hoping this is the same Clemson team that's lost. Like the last time we went to the tournament, we lost to Rutgers in the first round. But the time before that, we made it to the Sweet 16 and played Kansas, and Kansas beat us. So that's a good year. You go and you win some games in the tournament, you can. That's what you build off of. But Brownell's got this weird bingo card of we only have to go every 3 or 4 seasons to the tournament, and then you can lose to, Belmont in the NIT, and no one will give a shit. So that's where our program is. It's pretty sad. Well, anyway, hey, Carolina Jackpot will be joining us on Wednesday. Gamecocks, I can't remember who they play this week. I didn't look at the schedule, but I know there's midweek games for both Clemson and South Carolina, so we'll keep you up to board with that. Clemson, by the way, lost to East Kennesaw State, 18-1. What the fuck? And then South Carolina lost a baseball game to somebody this weekend. I can't remember who it was. Somebody they had no business losing to. These two teams will play each other this coming weekend.
UNC Charlotte knocked off the number 1 Wake Forest too.
They did? Wow. Well, who did Kentucky play in baseball this weekend?
Texas something other. The Texas Aquarium Car Wash Academy down there next to the Beehives. But we won 11 to something. 11 to 5, I think.
Won that game, whereas East Kennesaw State had, they went in and won 18-1 over the mighty Clemson Tigers at home. Belmont, I'm just reading from the vibe here, on yesterday gave the Gamecocks their first loss of the season as they won 11-2 at Founders Park. It's not, 11-2 is a bad loss, but it's not 18-1. Jesus.
Right.
How does that happen? All right. Well, appreciate you guys, and we shall see you later on.